latest report, the 20th of September 2024. And also happy birthday to Firdaus, September babies. Okay, let's start. News events. I think today there's none other more important than to talk about the 50 basis point cut, which the Fed did to kick off the rate reduction cycle. Now, on Wednesday, the Federal Reserve implemented its first rate cut, reducing benchmark's interest rate by 0.5%, or better, or some people like to call it 50 basis points. So Chair Jerome Powell explained that the decision to front load the cut was aimed at maintaining the strength of the US economy as concerns over potential risks to the labor market grow. This preemptive action is intended to reduce the likelihood of an economic downturn. He mentioned this in the what we call in his statement right after the FOMC. So in a way, it could be seen as the Fed is unwilling to risk a soft landing, okay, as this could lead to a recession. Now, a soft landing is not a recession, but if you have a soft landing, it could lead to a recession, and this is what the Jerome Powell and his team wants to avoid. Okay, so he wants to be known as the guy who actually beat inflation, number one, and number two, beat inflation so well that the market did not move into a recession. He wants to be remembered by that, because he is being remembered so far as the guy who was actually slow in increasing rates and let the inflation run away. So what the Fed is doing right now is they are focusing on elevating fears that central bank is falling behind the curve. They want to know that the central bank knows what's happening and they are ahead of things. Okay. So Powell, however, was careful not to commit the Fed to a similar pace going forward. Yeah. So that means are they going to continue to keep on cutting rates by a bigger margin? No, he did not commit to any of that. Now, alongside this rate reduction, the committee dot plot projection signal an additional 50 basis point cut by year's end. End of 2024, with another 1% reduction expected in 2025 and a further 0.5% cut by 2026. Okay, so in the previous report, I mentioned that dot plot analysis would be crucial, correct? Should the Fed surprise the market by raising 50 basis points? I mentioned that. So what has happened over here? Now we're going to break down the important things. Now, despite this initial front loading, the 50 basis points, most of the market actually expected 25 basis points. Now, what happened? They have a 50. So if you look at the dot plot, market expectations for the total rate cut through 2024 remain unchanged at 1%. This barring any major economic disruptions, okay? So we don't know if there's, from right now, September to November, there's roughly about 7 weeks, right? Now, these 7 weeks, if there's no bad news, everything is a status quo, unless suddenly you see jobs dropping at a super alarming rate. That's a different case. Okay, if everything is status quo, that means nothing has really changed. So because of that, you did not see that S&P sell off, because it's just like, instead the market has already priced in, right, 1%. So the Fed is just saying, I'm putting 150 basis point cut right now. It's just a preemptive, so that, we're going to support the labor market. It's healthy so far. We don't want it to be bad. It's not that bad right now. So if we do a 50 basis points and then the rest, we can actually do not raise in November and do a 50 in December, or we do a 25 in November, 25 basis points in December. We can do all these kind of things. Or we can even do a 50 basis points in November and not cut in December. So as long as it's within the expectations, nothing's going to happen, right? So that's the reason why on Wednesday's report I did mention, we might have a surprise because there was a sudden surge into the percentage of a 50 basis point rate cut by the Fed Watch tool, the CME Fed Watch tool. Okay, so anyway, this is what it is. That's the result so far. We did not see the sell-off because of this. There's no changes in the overall expectations. The committee acknowledged that while job gains have slowed and the unemployment rate has risen slightly to 4.4, up from the June projections of 4%, it still remain relatively low. Layoffs have shown minimal signs of resurgence so far, but if you look into the overall 4.4, yes, it is a point where they need to stand up and think and say, hey, I have to be very careful. But it's still far, far, far away from previous situations that end up in market recessions, where we had unemployment in the 5 to 6%. Now, those are levels that are of serious concern. Right now, yes, it's like I have to do something, and they're doing it right now. Okay. So the Fed also adjusted its inflation outlook, lowering the headline inflation forecast for 2024 to 2.3 from 2.6, while core inflation is expected to reach 2.6, down 0.2 points from the previous projections. Okay, so what's next? Now, this decision marks a significant moment for the Federal Reserve after 2 years of fighting inflation, coinciding with the presidential election cycle. Now, the Federal Reserve has said many times that they are apolitical when it comes to this. They just want to ensure that the US economy is fine, but you can't escape, from the fact that the economy and politics, they are intertwined. And because of this, the lowering borrowing costs could provide relief for Democratic candidate Kamala Harris, whose campaign has faced challenges over concerns about high living costs despite strong economic performance in the US. So with this also actually boosts the chance of Kamala actually being elected as the next president of the United States. Okay, so those are the probabilities that has been presented so far. With that, that's the report for today.